Hi sup chicks and sup blokes. Today we are going to do a road test on the GoPro Bite Mount. First off, we'll start with the pros. Just like the handlebar mount, it is really flexible in that you can maneuver it very quickly and very responsively. Essentially what happens is you put this piece here into your mouth, and wherever your head is turned is what you're going to be filming. So if you have any spontaneous shots, such as, oh wow, look, there's a bird over there, which I seem to be surrounded by birds today. I think they think I've got something for them to eat. If there's any wildlife suddenly joins you on your paddle, it's quite easy to quickly turn, face what it is that you want to shoot and be shooting at the same time. So first pro, incredibly flexible. The second pro is that it is also hands-free. You don't need to be holding on to it with your hand. So you've got two hands free to paddle. This is really good as you can film while you're actually in motion. So while you're actually paddling and moving along, you can actually film, as opposed to some of the mounts where if you have to hold them in your hand, you can't possibly paddle at the same time. Another pro is that it is relatively inexpensive. So this means that it's a good option to have in amongst your filming equipment, so you're not outlaying a lot of money for something that you might not necessarily use 100% of the time. And as with all of the attachments so far, we haven't found one that we tend to use 100% of the time. It's really good to have many options so that you have a way of changing up your shots and keeping your video interesting, hopefully. The GoPro attaches on like this. However, you tend to use it upside down like this so that it's not obscuring your view or in fact knocking into your nose. So it sits in your mouth like this. It's all very well to have just the bite mount with your GoPro like this. However, I would strongly recommend that you add the floatie to it. As you can see, there's not much going on here. You've got your camera, you've got your bite mount. It's in your mouth. All you're relying on keeping your GoPro safe is the grip of your jaw. So if you are doing this for long periods of time, you can get quite a tight sore jaw and not necessarily notice that the pressure is not being applied consistently, and it is quite easy to loosen the tension on your jaw and lose your camera, because there is quite a bit of weight in the GoPro cameras, so it is enough for them to easily fall out of your mouth if you're not applying that same amount of pressure the whole time. So strongly recommend use the float mount as well. This adds a little bit more weight to your GoPro, but it is definitely worth it because your camera will at the very least float. So most bite mounts come with a floatie. You can buy them together. There's a link in the description to take you to a shop where you can buy one. However, you can opt to just buy it singly if you've already got the float mount. Another adaptation that I would also recommend is getting yourself a lanyard. So what you can do is have this around your neck when you are using the camera, and then when you're not, you can just allow it to dangle again. So to me, this is the most versatile way of using the bite mount, and it's the least problematic. So now onto the cons. The first thing I discovered when I started using the bite mount is that it can be a little bit tricky to work out the exact angle that you want your camera on. So just something to be mindful to play around with a bit before you go out on your board and work out exactly how you want to have it set, at what angle your head is. So what you can see here is that the angle can be changed. So where you have this set really depends upon the incline of your neck. So if you have your neck in extension, you'll want to have the angle more like this. That's an exaggeration, of course. But if your neck naturally sits in a little bit more flexion, then you'll want to have it like a little bit more like this. Again, exaggeration. But just these couple of degrees of angle can make quite a big difference on your shot. You can either end up with too much sky or too much water. Another con is that, and this is easily worked around, but if you have image stabilization on and you've moved your head quite quickly, you can end up with an image that sort of swims around a little bit at the very beginning or at the very end of your shot. So for example, you've just quickly turned to see a bird or something flying down onto the water, then you might end up that the bit that you want to use is the bit that's kind of swinging around a little bit. However, turn the image stabilization off for those sorts of shots, and that should circumvent that. Another con is the jaw tension that you can get from gripping too tightly onto the mouthpiece. As a chiropractor, I see a lot of people with jaw tension. We tend to grip our jaws when we're stressed, and this might not be the best piece for you if you know that you have TMJ problems, or if you know that you grind your teeth at night. So a way to avoid this is to be mindful of just how tight you're gripping down onto the mouthpiece, and also to give yourself breaks through the trip. Change up the mount that you're using as well. This is going to give you a more variable film as well. So I would say that I don't tend to use the Bite Mount as much as the handlebar mount, simply because I don't think that I get all the shots that I want just using this mount. Is a little bit more limited, which brings me on to the next point, that if you are swapping mounts mid-paddle, you need to be very mindful of not losing the bits and pieces overboard. So a good way of doing this is to sit down and maybe have something on your lap that's going to catch anything that falls, like the little screws and bits and pieces that come off as you're swapping the mount over. Another con I would say with the Bite Mount is that it's not one of the better options for filming yourself. It's good for filming the environment, other people you might be paddling with, but to do sort of selfie type shots, it's just a little bit more problematic. So what I would probably tend to suggest is that if you were using it for a selfie shot would be to, obviously you've got to take the lanyard off from around your neck. I would tend to make sure that you have the lanyard wrapped securely around your wrist. Again, it's not a big deal if you drop the camera into the water because you've got the flotation device, but because you're actually putting this piece back into your mouth as well, you might like to try and avoid it going in the water, especially if the water quality is not that great. So the GoPro Bite Mount with the Floatie, definitely worth checking out for stand-up paddleboarding. Thanks for watching our video. If you enjoyed it and found it helpful, please support us by liking, subscribing, clicking notification and sharing with your paddleboarding mates. While you're here, check out some of these other videos. See you next time.